Computer, bang, bang. And then, what's up, everyone? Let's dive on into the case study with Stacy. Sweet. All right. Here we go. Gonna share screen and we're gonna dive into it. Super excited for this one because Stacy is now a year out from when we first started, over a year now, and she's a rock star. And so it's cool to just check in on her. I was talking to her the other day and I was like, I should do a case study on you. She's like, okay. So here we go. Stacy's case study. So about a year ago, Stacy reached out, or actually it would have been right before 2021. Stacy reached out and she wanted to work through several challenges, but basically just wanted someone to help her work towards her goal of losing weight that she had gained during quarantine, really toning and leaning out, and just getting a better routine and ultimately leveling up. And I don't want to steal the thunder too much, but some of the initial challenges that she had is she wasn't active, right? From a surgery, quarantine, we've all been there, quarantine, holidays have just happened. Definitely hesitant about investing in a coach and having someone to keep you accountable. Bunch of weddings, birthday parties, and a trip to Mexico was on the docket coming up. So things to navigate and work around. Doing random workouts just to work out at home. I was really intimidated about going into a gym alone to work out, and I was just more comfortable with doing stuff at home. So here is the before and after from, and we got the different seasons that we went through here, and we'll detail the seasons, but on the left would have been sometime in 2020. On the right was the photo shoot that we got her ready for here. She just wanted a photo shoot, being her best self, wanted a way to catalog it. And then what we have here is maintaining everything we created here in a reverse diet. And this is really cool. And this is where you'll learn essentially how to eat more and get your metabolism to adapt to a higher calorie level so that you can keep and maintain and sustain the progress that you've created. And at the end of this, we'll check in and see where she's at, but nothing's changed. She's been able to make not only a physical transformation, but a mental transformation. And now this is just every day what what her body's like, but it is a little bit deeper than that. And big challenge that a lot of people run into is they'll go and crash diet or they'll go and do something extreme and then gain all the weight back. And so I'll walk you through how you go through a process of not gaining that weight back. But just keep these numbers in mind before we go and dive into everything. So at the start, 142.8, took measurements about, what is this, 20, so about 5 months down here. So that's a little over 24 pounds, several inches lost there. And then at the start, we gave her a little bit of a break. Then we reverse dieted, and this is the 8-week progress of that. So we went over the initial challenges. So I'm actually going to share now what we did specifically. So let's bounce out here and let's just dive into essentially what we were doing at the very start of it all, just to give you kind of an idea of like what was going on, different challenges and different approaches that we were taking. So right off the bat, one of the first things I always want to look at is how is someone sleeping. So initially we're like, okay, between 5 and 6 hours of sleep. So that was something that I flagged. I was like, hey, got to make sure that you're getting sleep. It's going to make this diet phase, the training stuff, so much easier than what we're doing. We saw here from a calorie intake standpoint, and she did a really good job right away of getting to a higher protein amount. I wanted her at about her body weight. And at the start, boom, that's what she did. So right away, got into that. For some people, that's really hard. We've got a number of different things that we can do to help you get there. But one of the things I loved about Stacy, she was just like, bam, all right, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. So what we have here is basically a 140 grams of protein. Her fats, this is updated to what it was at most recently, but this would have been roughly about 30% of her body weight, and then carbs were making up the rest. She was having a ton of carbs. And from a training standpoint, we've got a bunch of different programs that she's done over the course of a year. But when we started back in January of here, right, it was 4 days of strength training per week. So we'll dive into what it looks like now, right here. Boom, January 2022. And if we go and look at a calendar, we can see that boom, it is basically 5 days a week lifting, no cardio. She was doing a little bit more cardio in the start because we were in a fat loss phase, but now she's in a maintenance phase, doesn't have to do any cardio, which is great. We like that. So if you like cardio, you can definitely do cardio, but we don't want to do more than we need to. So then as we go through and progress, I'm just going to kind of call out different things that, we had for obstacles to navigate and different things. So one thing about Stacy is she loved baking. And so she's always having different treats and snacks. And we wanted to make sure that she could still do that. So she's doing that throughout everything. But once we found essentially what a deficit was for her, we stayed there and didn't do anything drastic. So you'll see 1700, 1700, 1700. I want to find kind of like a first mark. So birthday right here. And this is a really good example of what happens when it's like, hey, just live your life. It's totally fine. So for about 8 weeks, she was at this 1700 calorie threshold. You can see here 1799. So even that being 1800, so anywhere between 17 and 1800. Boom, boom, 17, 1800, boom, boom, 17, 1800. And then we got here, 3,000 calorie day. It was your birthday. I said, hey, enjoy your birthday. More birthday celebrating. Great. We want to do that. But at this point, we'd gone down in 8 weeks, 10 pounds. And there was this average right here where we always want to take the average of the weight so that we can see a general trend line versus creating this big anxiety and fear around, like a 3-month check-in. Just make it normal. Step on the scale. What does it say? Cool. We can make adjustments from there. But then we go in and see, it's totally normal to see a little 2-pound jump after you have, a birthday party and you maybe drink a little bit more, you eat some more cupcakes, or you have, your cake, whatever it is. But that's totally fine, because what we saw here, we were at 130 going into the birthday. 7 days later, we were back at that number. And then we were back into the deficit, broke the 130 mark. And then here, we went, she went to a wedding, right? So she was a bridesmaid, was in a wedding, boom, 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 4 days, and didn't track on the wedding, which is something that I'm big on, is like, if there's a day where it's more beneficial to just be present, enjoy the wedding. And guess what? 129 came back. Oh my gosh, the scale's up, but that's okay, because we know that she didn't put on 2-3 pounds of fat. It's just going to be a mix of fluid retention, a little bit extra salt, a little bit extra carbohydrates pulling in water, maybe a little bit of inflammation from the drinking, traveling, and getting on an airplane typically will cause, a pound or two to jump, but that's okay. Didn't panic here. We just said, okay, cool. You're up a few pounds. Let's get back into it. By the end of the week, new all-time low. Keep in mind, this is 12 weeks in now. She's doing a really good job being active from a workout standpoint, still enjoying weddings, birthdays, cabin weekend, wanted to finish the ice cream, cookies, Super Bowl snacks. And so there's different times throughout the week where she's still able to enjoy this, but you can see here being really consistent. And the protein, that's going to be one that I touch on a lot. If you haven't watched the video, the number one thing you got to make sure you're doing to have like a toned physique, I can give you a hint, protein intake and keeping that high is going to be super important for building muscle and maintaining muscle. One thing I want to call out here, sleep has improved a ton, and it's important to make sure that sleep's really good, especially in a fat loss phase, because you don't want to make it harder on your body than it already is, knowing that you're giving it less energy from a food standpoint. Did a really good job here, continuing to get 10,000 steps. I think it looks like that was something that we started to track as we started to push calories down a little bit more. So we got 17. Here we would have made 1,600 calories. Yeah, I actually called out this right here. Calories decrease to 1,600. We keep protein where it is, and then we pull from carbohydrates. Still went to a birthday, brunch, ice cream cake, was able to fit it in, no issues. So we keep going down, 1,500, 1,500, 1,500. And then we get to Mexico. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 days on vacation in Mexico, still able to enjoy it. Gave yourself a day off of tracking, totally fine. And look, up 3 pounds. It's okay, because we know that we're going to get back on track and get back to where we were before. So before Mexico, we're at 120.9. A week later, or 2 weeks later, 119.9, new all-time low, around 1,500 calories. Now keep in mind, this is getting right on up to the photo shoot, which is when, if we go back here and look at here, like this is, we got her really lean, visible abs, toned arms for this specific date. And this is what it is talked about when you hear like aesthetics. Aesthetics is a visual goal. And when you peak for a specific aesthetic date, that would be a photo shoot, a wedding, a someone who's a bikini competition, or a someone who's on stage for a physique show, right? That is your aesthetic peak. And so we were still able to hit that aesthetic peak for her, knowing that she was going on vacation 2 days later. That's totally fine. So she ended up getting all the way here. 6/3 was the date, and when she took the photo shoot, didn't track for a few days, just took it off, donuts, ice cream, right? And you see a 6-pound jump here, but she didn't put on 6 pounds in 2 days. That's just an intake. Again, like I said, higher salt, higher carb, a little bit more inflammatory foods, most likely, maybe a little bit more toxicity in the foods, maybe a little bit more alcohol. All that stuff's going to cause the body to hold on to and retain fluid, retain blood, retain water, but that's okay, because she was able to go right back down to it, 120 a few days later. So this gets us coming back to here, from here to here, right? 5 months, ton of inches down, very visible muscle definition, very toned. And then what I want to touch on now is the reverse diet, because as we got lower in calories, you can see here, it's about 1463. A big mistake that people will make is they just go back to how they were before. They go back to eating, what she would have been doing up here, before we started. So back in December. And so it makes sense you're going to gain it all back. But another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there's metabolic adaptation. So as you become a lighter human and lose weight, or as your body adapts to lower calories, your requirements needed become lower and lower and lower. So what we needed to do is reverse diet. And that essentially the approach of increasing her calorie intake, so that maintenance is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 1900, 2000 calories. So now she can go and maintain the lean physique that she has without putting the weight back on after. And this is the biggest thing that people will do from a mistake standpoint when they diet, is they diet, lose the weight, go right back to what they were doing before. And there's no adaptation in the opposite direction for the metabolism. So now we'll go into the next phase. So 120.9, 121.7, put on what, 0.8 pounds, but that's okay, because check this out. During this time, we go from 1763, so we got her right out of that deficit right away. And then we inched calories up about 100 every week, 2000, 2100, 2000, 2200, 2000, 2200. So we were able to get her to finish at 2200 calories. Took an extra 2 months, but that's okay. Now look at how much easier it is for her to maintain. She was at 120.8 on this day. That's literally a 1/10 of a pound less than she was right at the start of this. But why is this important? One, like I was mentioning earlier, she's now able to get out of the diet, out of the deficit without gaining the weight back. But during this time, she's able to build a little bit of muscle as well, because she's giving her body more food than she typically would have. So you see 1/2 inch in the chest, arms stay the same, 1/2 inch around the navel, 1/2 inch around the navel. That's totally fine. It's not a ton, but 1 inch around the hips, right? So that's an indication of building a little bit more muscle. But then this is, keep in mind, from a timeline standpoint, this is middle of summer. That's what we were able to do to get her so that as she goes into summer season, right, very visible ab definition, didn't just put the weight back on after the photo shoot, or again, after the wedding, or after the bachelorette party, or after whatever it is that you're trying to aesthetically peak for. You want to maintain that after, and that's something that's super important. So I think that's all I wanted to cover in terms of this case study. The last thing I would just say to highlight what she saw or said after. If you would have asked me where I would have been 6 months from now, there's no way I would have guessed this. And this is something that she sent in. I'm just making these up. Never felt so strong, healthy, fit in my life. Never once felt restricted on the nutrition side of things. It's a different mentality to eat intentionally versus scattered eating desserts and snacks throughout the day. And that's a big one, because if you're just randomly eating, you're getting these random inputs. We just want to be intentional and mindful about what you're doing and setting specific targets. We mentioned earlier that she was, not as familiar with going into the gym, maybe a little bit intimidated. I would have never had the confidence to go into the gym, I'll just say here, and lift weights on my own. But that's my life now. My fitness journey with him, me as a mentor, has been life-changing. So this is Stacy's case study. And if you have any questions as to any other details, drop them below in the comments. But if you want a transformation like this, I would invite you to book an advisory call. It's completely free, risk-free. We'll walk you through A to Z, what challenges are in your way and what we can create in the E4Fit Method program so that you can get results just like Stacy. So drop a note in the comments if you have any additional questions, but you can also just go to the link in the comments as well and book a call, and we'd love to talk to you.